You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250, where we look at events that took place 250 years ago this week. This is from the American Revolution Podcast, just a short bonus episode to remind you about these important anniversaries from the Revolutionary War. This week, we remember the birth of the U.S. Navy on October 13th, 1775, and other events from the week of October 8th. During the ongoing siege of Boston in the fall of 1775, the land forces were at a standoff, but there was still plenty of action in the waters around Boston. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed the fact that General Thomas Gage, who was governor of Massachusetts and the military commander in North America, had been recalled to London. It took a couple of weeks for General Gage to get his affairs in order, to turn over command to General William Howe, and to arrange transport back to England. General Howe formally took command of the army on October 10th, and the following morning, October 11th, Gage and his family boarded the transport ship Pallas and left North America for the last time. Also a few weeks ago, I mentioned the commission of the first Continental ship, the Hannah, which had been converted from a fishing ship by just adding a few cannons to it. I mentioned during that episode that the British ship Nautilus tried to chase down the Hannah, forcing her into Beverly Harbor. Despite the fact that the Hannah got stuck on a sandbar, attacks from the locals prevented the British from seizing her, and the British were forced to flee the harbor without their prize. Those events actually happened on October 10th. Now, the British Navy unquestionably dominated the seas. America would not have any ships that could seriously challenge even most of the smaller British vessels. The most optimistic estimates predicted that it would take several years to build any ships that could seriously challenge even a single British warship. So any hope of that was put aside for the time being. Instead, men like Colonel John Glover of Massachusetts, the man who had contributed the Hannah to the cause, recommended these small armed ships be used to seize and deter merchant ships from trying to help supply the British Army in Boston, and perhaps they might capture some military supplies being sent to the British, and those supplies were in desperate need by the Continental Army. On October 13th, Congress formed its Marine Committee and for the first time agreed to run with Glover's plans to interrupt and interdict commercial shipping in and around Boston. The committee consisted of Silas Deane of Connecticut, Christopher Gadsden of South Carolina, and John Langdon of New Hampshire. The committee authorized Glover to continue his efforts, approving the purchase of and arming of 2 ships and the commissioning of a 3rd ship. Glover was already well on his way to converting other civilian ships into warships. Now, because the British Navy had too few ships to patrol hundreds of miles of coastline, there were plenty of opportunities for these raiders to capture supply ships and otherwise disrupt efforts to supply the British in Boston. Glover's converted ships proved highly effective in seizing supply ships, including at least one that provided the Continental Army with desperately needed military supplies. These efforts forced the British Navy to increase their patrols around Boston, meaning they had fewer resources to patrol the rest of the East Coast. And because the Continental Congress first approved warships on October 13, 1775, America recognizes that date as the birth date of the U.S. Navy. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. I originally covered the events in this episode in episode 75 of the American Revolution Podcast. I also encourage you to subscribe for free on whatever podcast platform you like. Thanks again for listening to this Revolution 250 moment on the American Revolution Podcast.